question becomes, back in those days when he was committing this act and when these pastors and leaders were committing these horrible acts, where was their boundaries? Where was their safeguards to make sure their behavior didn't participate with some kind of impure temptation that they had? Where was their boundaries that would lead them away from these type of acts? Well, welcome everybody to the Courageous Truth Podcast. As always, I'm honored that you have chosen to spend a little bit of time with me today. My name is Eric Lumberg. I'm a pastor and a patriot here in Pierce County, Washington, and I just want to share some thoughts. Over the past 24 hours, it has came out that Pastor Robert Morris of Gateway Church in Texas has pled guilty to SA charges of a child. And I want to offer a different perspective around this. That is a message primarily to ministers and pastors. Everybody actually can listen, but this is to them. And some thoughts I have and experiences I had of how to protect yourself from accusation of these things. Now, hear me out. Hear me out before you write me off. Watch this little clip, and I want to share some thoughts around it.
All new for you right here at 4 o'clock. We've got breaking news. Robert Morris, the founding pastor of Gateway Church in Southlake, as you see, being led away here in handcuffs, headed to jail after pleading guilty in his Oklahoma child sex abuse criminal case. With that, we say thanks for joining us here at 4 for CBS News Texas. I'm Nicole Baker.
And I'm Ken Molestina. Karen is off today. Robert Morris's guilty plea stems from allegations of abuse of a 12-year-old girl 4 decades ago. That victim now in her 50s. Morris was charged with lewd or indecent acts with a child.
Our Andrea Lucia was inside the courtroom today in Oklahoma. Andrea, can you bring us up to speed right now?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. This is stunning. Robert Morris, the founder of one of our country's largest churches and a former spiritual advisor to President Trump, has been sentenced to 10 years. The first 6 months he will serve behind bars here in Osage County. The remaining 9.5 years will likely be served as probation. He will have to register as a sex offender as part of this. We have been covering this criminal case since March, when Morris was indicted on 5 counts of lewd or indecent acts with a child for molesting a young girl here in Oklahoma 4 decades ago. He faced up to 20 years in prison for each of those 5 charges. But today's plea came as part of a deal that will limit his time behind bars and allows him to serve the probation that will follow in Dallas. Now, cameras weren't allowed inside the courtroom, but I was one of the few reporters who was inside watching as this all happened. The room was packed with friends and family of the victim, Cindy Clemenshire. As you mentioned, she was 12 years old when the abuse began. She is now a grandmother in her 50s. Both she and her sister had a chance to address Morris in court before he was taken away in handcuffs. They talked about how his actions affected their family. Cindy was in tears listening to her sister speak first and tell Morris that his legacy will be one of pedophilia, of betrayal, of lies, of shame. We then saw Cindy get up and talk about how this has affected her life, how she has been in therapy for many years, feeling ashamed of what had happened, blaming herself for what had happened. It has taken her until now to really come to terms with the fact that she is not at fault at all. She told him as part of her statement that even if he never understands the truth or accepts the truth, the state of Oklahoma does. Very powerful words from her.
Really a stunning scene, Andrea, to see him walk away there in handcuffs.
Over the past couple of years, probably 5 years, a lot of big name pastors and preachers have came out and been accused of assault, inappropriate behavior, assault, this type of thing. And the question has to come, why does this keep happening? Now, I believe that, number one, it's sinful nature. The fact that Robert Morris did what he did to this child is an absolute evil. Okay. I want to make that very clear. But the question becomes, back in those days when he was committing this act and when these pastors and leaders were committing these horrible acts, where was their boundaries? Where was their safeguards to make sure their behavior didn't participate with some kind of impure temptation that they had? Where was their boundaries that would lead them away from these type of acts? Now, growing up in the church, we had extremely strict boundaries between leadership and between children and between people of the opposite sex to ensure that this type of thing didn't happen. And if it did, you had to jump through a lot of hoops to commit these acts. When I was growing up, we had in the church, as a church leader, when it came to children, we had very, very strict bathroom policies. We had very, very strict diaper policies. And in fact, when kids or teenagers needed to use the restroom, no leader was allowed to go in the bathroom. And in fact, 2 leaders needed to accompany those students to the restroom. That way, there was no kind of, there would be no way there could be an accusation, and there was accountability for the leaders. Our diaper policy were diaper policies that parents had to sign. Most likely, if there was a diaper that needed changing, we would go and get the parents out of the church service so they could come and change that diaper. The reason for all the policies, and in fact, some of those policies were so strict at the church I was growing up at, men were not allowed within 10 feet of an open bathroom door. There was just so many policies. And looking back now, when I was younger, I thought they were so ridiculous because my heart was pure. But looking back now, those policies were such a protection. They were such a protection for the children and the youth, and they were such a protection for the leaders of those particular ministries and churches to make sure, number one, that there was no kind of false accusation. Because I'm not, now, again, hear what I'm saying. There are at times false accusations. Now, the accusation against Robert Morris and against some of these other leaders that have covered up abuse, those are not false allegations, okay? But there are false allegations that take place in the church that, if not properly protected against, could be detrimental and destroy somebody's life. And they could, in fact, go to prison for accusations if they had no witnesses. No one seems to talk about that part of it. Is Robert Morris guilty? Yes. Are some of these leaders guilty? I believe that some of them are, if there's proof. But it's such a fine line, because we've been conditioned to think that any victim that is testifying is automatically in the right, and then the perpetrator is in the wrong. It's not always the case. With that muddled line, I want to get back to my point is, what are the boundaries as a church leader or a business leader or a political leader that you have set up in your life to protect against accusation or against participation? Don't be so prideful to think that you could never fall into any kind of sinful or horrible act. It is very important that you set up boundaries to ensure that it never even becomes a thought or a possibility. Okay? What are your boundaries around people in the workplace of the opposite sex? What are the boundaries that you have set up in your workplace or in your church around children or around youth of both genders? Okay, because remember, there's only 2. What are the boundaries you've set up around bathroom policy, around around retreats, around your Sunday school classroom. Those things are so important. And when you have strong boundaries that are very clear amongst your churches and amongst your business, and that is clear, that it's written down, that's practiced and taught, you don't have to worry about you've preemptively protected yourself against anything, against accusation and participation. Those things are so important, so that when someone comes to your church or your business and says, we're concerned about, the possibility of abuse or misuse or whatever it is, you can hand them that policy and say, this is what we believe in. This is how we function, our protection for everyone involved. This is how we teach it. This is how we practice it. If we could start to do that, especially in today's age, swallow our pride. Don't think that, we're a Christian church, that would never happen. No. Excuse me. Because we are wise and because we are righteous and we are godly, we have set up boundaries and safeguards to ensure that that could never happen. And it sets a standard of safety that creates a comforting environment for everyone who comes to your church or everyone who comes to your business. You should have a diaper policy in your church. You should have a bathroom policy in your church. You should have a ratio of adults to students and students to adults. You should make sure that when you're teaching in a classroom, your door is wide open. You should have elders or ushers that come in and check to make sure that there's a lot of eyes on what's going on. It's not about mistrust. It's about creating trust. It's not about being afraid that people are going to accuse you. It's about making sure that you're transparent and being an example to everyone around you. That's how the world works nowadays. So when I see this, what happened to Robert Morris, as heartbreaking as it is, what safeguards should he have set? Because it's not the victim's responsibility to safeguard their life. It's the adult and the responsible person's responsibility to safeguard. What safeguard should Robert Morris have had long before this situation had happened to ensure there was no accusation or participation? And I want to challenge all my listeners today, and I want to challenge all my viewers today to understand that wisdom has foresight. Wisdom has policy. Wisdom has protection, and wisdom has transparency in these type of situations. You ask my wife, you ask my church staff, we have very specific policies around these issues to make sure that they never become an issue. When they're practiced, we're safe. When we're practiced, kids are safe. When they're practiced, people of the opposite sex are safe. When they're practiced, people who are vulnerable are safe. That there is complete transparency at all time. And that is the taken message I take away from the whole Robert Morris situation. He's going to jail for 6 months, should be more. I believe, but I'm not the judge or jury. And I'm grateful for that this young lady, or she's a grandma now, has found peace. And I hope that this is some closure to her and there's some healing in the justice that she finds. But it should never have been an opportunity for that participation in the first place. Because Robert Morris, as a church leader, should have put those boundaries in place long before he engaged with anybody or anything. So that is in itself the courageous truth of the matter. That we are going to have the foresight to protect ourselves and those around us equally, so that this type of thing never happens, and we can get about the good business of serving our communities, preaching the gospel, and knowing what is proper and what is prohibited in our church interactions and business interactions and engagements. So God bless you. Make sure you like, subscribe, share with your family and friends. Help me build this podcast platform as we continue to get the courageous truth instilled in the hearts of our communities and in the hearts of people like you and me. God bless you. Continue to stand for what's true and what's right, and you will need courage to do that. God bless you.